Vidurata and Brahmacharya Sutta. Let's see, name of the chapter. Killing of Dantavakra, Viduranath, and Ramaharshan. We're starting with text number 18. I'll just read the Sanskrit for this one. Snatva prabhase santarpya devarshi pitri manavan sarasvitim prati shotam yayo brahmana samrita. After bathing at Prabhasha and honoring the demigods, sages, forefathers, and prominent human beings, he went in the company of Brahmanas to the portion of the Saraswati that flows westward into the sea. So we're talking about Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram visited the broad Bindu Saras lake, Tritakupa, Sandarshana, Vishala, Brahmatirtha, Chakratirtha, and the eastward flowing Saraswati. He also went to all the holy places along the Jamuna and the Ganges, or Bharata, and then he came to the Namisha forest, where great sages were performing an elaborate sacrifice. Recognizing the Lord upon his arrival, the sages, who had been engaged in their sacrificial rituals for a long time, greeted him properly by standing up, bowing down, and worshiping him. After being thus worshipped along with his entourage, the Lord accepted a seat of honor. Then he noticed that Ramaharshan, Vyasadev's disciple, had remained seated. Lord Balaram became extremely angry on seeing how this member of the Sutta caste had failed to stand up, bow down, or join his palms, and how he was sitting above all the learned brahmanas. Purport: Ramaharshan had failed to greet Lord Balaram in any of the standard ways for welcoming a superior personality. Also, despite of a lower caste, he sat in a seat above the assembly of exalted brahmanas. How Lord Balaram said, because this fool born from an improperly mixed marriage sits above all of these brahmanas and even above me, protect a religion, he deserves to die. Although he is a disciple of the divine sage Vyasa, he has thoroughly learned many scriptures from him, including the law books for religious duties and the epic histories of the Puranas. All this study has not produced good qualities in him. Rather, his study of the scriptures is like an actor studying his part. He is not self-controlled or humble and vainly presumes himself a scholarly authority, although he has failed to conquer his own mind. Purport: one may argue that Ramaharshan committed an innocent mistake when he failed to recognize Lord Balaram, but such an argument is refuted here by Lord Balaram's strong criticism. The very purpose of my descent to this world is to kill such hypocrites who pretend to be religious. Indeed, they are the most sinful rascals. Purport: Lord Balaram was not prepared to overlook Ramaharshan's offense. The Lord had descended specifically to eliminate those who claim to be great religious leaders who do not respect the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We go up to 28, is that right? 28. Shukadeva Goswami continued, although Lord Balaram had stopped killing the impious, Ramaharshan's death was inevitable. As having spoken, the Lord killed him by picking up a blade of kusha grass and touching him with its tip. Purport: Srila Prabhupada writes, Lord Balaram had avoided taking part in the battle of Kurukshetra, and because of his position as an incarnation, the reestablishment of religious principles was his primary duty. Considering these points, he killed Ramaharshan Sutta simply by striking him with a kusha straw, which is nothing but a blade of grass. If someone questions how Lord Balaram could kill Ramaharshan Sutta simply by striking him with a blade of kusha grass, the answer is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the use of the word Prabhu, master. The Lord's position is always transcendental, and because he is omnipotent, he can act as he likes without being obliged to follow the material laws and principles. Thus, it is possible for him to kill Ramaharshan Sutta simply by striking him with a blade of grass. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Om Agyanativanandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. This might be a dilemma, how Lord Balaram, all merciful Lord Balaram, could kill a person who did not stand up. After all, Lord Balaram just happened to enter into the assembly, and Ramaharshan was sitting on the Vyasasan, and when one is sitting on the Vyasasan, it's enjoined that one should not stand up. On the other hand, one should stand up for somebody of Godhead. So this is part of the lesson of this particular story. This is similar to Duryodhana. Duryodhana was also ruling his kingdom very nicely, at least from the point of view of economic development and sense gratification, and even some basic principles of liberation and religion. But as it says by Prahlad Maharaj, Vitirna Krishna Parataksutova Vito Bipadyeta Grihavratanam Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamizram Punak Punas Charvanana. That unfortunately, everyone in the material world is finding themselves in difficulty. And everyone is trying to get out of that difficulty. Namely, everyone is feeling some lack of knowledge of how to be happy forever. And everyone's trying to apply their knowledge, we should say their intelligence, to find out how they could actually be happy forever. But the only problem is the last thing they investigate is how to put the mind on Krishna. They'll try everything else in the universe except for Krishna consciousness. Therefore, it says, Brahmande Brahmate Kon Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Latabish. After wandering up and down throughout the whole universe, because actually it's probably necessary, we've come to the material world because we want to find some place where we can be happy forever, without Krishna. At least we can experiment what it would be like to be Krishna for some time. And we come here, we search up and down in all the different species of life and all the different planets to get some experience and see if there's some situation in the material world where we can actually be happy forever. But when a fortunate person realizes that there is no happiness and comes in contact with a bona fide representative of Krishna, then matira means to put the consciousness on. Then one may try to put one's consciousness on Krishna. That beginning is called Shraddha, a little experience that putting the mind on Krishna actually makes one at least peaceful and eventually satisfied and even blissful when one progresses. But Matirana Krishna, Paratosapova, this takes some time because people are trying everything. Personal study, going online and hearing from others, group study, or a combination of both. But without Krishna, it is simply adanta gobir. The attempt is simply to learn how in some body or another, how to eat better, how to sleep better, how to have better sex, or how to defend oneself. But after some time, one who's experienced understands punak charvanana. It's simply chewing the chewed. that it doesn't matter how nicely we eat or how well we sleep or how divine our sex life appears to be or how secure we feel in any circumstance. It is simply the same thing over and over again. Now, Krishna doesn't come to this material world to inform people how to eat better, how to sleep better, how to mate better, or how to defend better. He has some very specific reasons for coming to the material world, which he expresses, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya tridiskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavam yuge yuge. In order to protect the pious, to annihilate the miscreants, and to reestablish religious principles, I advent myself millennium after millennium. And it's expected that if one is going to be in harmony, if one is going to be in the human form of life with the laws of nature and with the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to take up Krishna's mission. It is not possible, as Krishna says, Nashti buddhya yuktasya, nacha yuktasya bhavanaha, nacha bhaviyantak shantir, ashantasya kutaksuka. For one who's not in the divine consciousness or Krishna consciousness, it's not possible to have either a controlled mind or steady intelligence, without which there's no possibility of peace. And how can there be any possibility of peace? So human life is specifically meant so that we organize our lives, that we realize those three things, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. If we don't understand that we're spiritual beings and remain in the animal conception of life, then our human form of life has been wasted. And even after we realize that we're eternal souls, if we don't take guidance and become from the super soul and become aware of him, then our human form of life is also wasted. And even after coming in contact with the super soul and getting his guidance, if we don't go progressively towards becoming aware of our eternal relation with Krishna, the human form of life is also wasted. Therefore, Krishna is not satisfied with anyone if they're not helping people progressively come to the platform of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Therefore, even Duryodhana, even Ravana, although they arranged the society that they were living in quite in an exemplary manner, after Ravana was almost dead, after fighting with Lord Ramachandra sent Vibhishan to Ravana to learn how to run a kingdom. Because even those who are asuras, they also, if they're going to become exalted, they have to follow Veda. If one is going to become a leader, proper leader of a society, then they also have to follow the Vedic culture. Of course, Ravana was not a complete follow the Vedic culture, but he followed it enough that he knew how to organize society. His main problem is his diet. Eating cows and eating brahmanas. It's not a recommended diet in the Vedic culture. Therefore, he had some difficulty controlling his senses, and he stole Sita, which was also not part of the Vedic culture. In any case, he was qualified enough to teach his brother how to properly organize a society, because for the most part, except for his diet and some other things, he did follow the Vedic culture. Otherwise, he would not have become so powerful. Similarly, we find Ramaharshan here, very learned, vastly learned, but Dite vidu swartikatim hi Vishnu. He didn't know that the aim of life was to obtain Vishnu or Krishna. Darashiyaya bahir artamanina. Therefore, he was teaching even to these sages at Namasharanya something which is ultimately not going to help anyone, any of these sages, progress towards the ultimate goal of life. Therefore, he's considered andaya tandero pigimanas tepisha tantra urudami bara. He was considered by Balaram to be blind to the goal of life. And therefore, all these sages who had sincerely come to Naimisharanya in order to elevate their consciousness to the highest perfectional stage of life and to assist society, the human form of the society at that time, to make progress in the age of Kali, Lord Balaram knew that this was not the appropriate person to do this. Not only not appropriate, but in the very teachings of Ramaharshan, he was becoming himself implicated in misleading the people that he was instructing. Because instead of instructing them how to become perfect in Krishna consciousness, or at least on the path to that, he was leading them away from that path due to the fact of emphasizing simply academic studies or sacrificial rituals over the actual goal of life. Namely, to, as it says, Naishamatis Tavada Rukramangrim, that one should seek out a person who actually knows what the purpose of life is engaged in that purpose, and is actually in contact with Krishna. And therefore, he's giving up his attachment to materialistic conceptions of life, materialistic endeavors. He's actually gradually giving them up by contact with a great devotee. Otherwise, Krishna says, Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahora Vimuktes Tamho Dwaram Yoshita Sangi Sangam. That one has to seek out Mahatmas. Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahora Vimuktes. One has to seek out a Mahatma for the opening the door towards going back to Godhead, but going back to Krishna. Otherwise, Tamo Dwaram Yoshita Sangi Sangam. However learned we may be in academic studies, however much Vedic knowledge we have, whether we can touch our nose or not with our foot, without Krishna consciousness, we won't be actually satisfied. Without bhakti, without love for Krishna, and eventually expanding that love to all living entities, then we cannot be happy or satisfied, and therefore naturally we'll seek out some romantic affair in the material world to try and fill up the gap of happiness that we're going to experience without Krishna. Unfortunately, that's not possible because it's not real happiness, according to Prahlad Maharaj. Pumsa Sriya Yanmai Tunaidi Grihamedi Stukam Hitucham. Yes, it is a kind of happiness, but that happiness, Prahlad Maharaj said, is just like the happiness we get by scratching an itch and relieving the itching sensation. There is pleasure, there's some kind of enjoyment by doing that, but it's not the ultimate pleasure, and it's not sufficient to protect us from repeatedly doing the same thing over and over and over again without any real progress in life. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed his followers not just to study the books, not even just to chant Hare Krishna, not even just to worship the deities, not only to serve the devotees, but he wants to make the atmosphere spiritual. Because if the atmosphere is not spiritual, it is extremely difficult to practice devotional life. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Yari Deka Tarikaha Krishna Upadesh Amara Agaya Guruhana Taridesh. Our business in this lifetime, in this world, is how to inject Krishna consciousness in this world. As a representative of Krishna, as aspiring devotees of Krishna, trying to represent him, we have the same mission as Krishna has. The same mission as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the same mission that Srila Prabhupada has given us, that whoever we meet, we have to think about how I can help them progress in Krishna consciousness. There's no set formula, that we say the same thing to everyone. But we have to pray to Krishna within the heart to give us the intelligence. What can I do under these circumstances to serve the mission of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by helping this particular or those living entities we come in contact with make progress in devotional service in Krishna consciousness. If we're doing that, then we're rightly situated. Other than that, we can expect that Krishna and his illusory energy are trying to correct our path, put us onto that path. And it doesn't matter who we are. As Maharaj Rishabdev said, Gurur nasyat, Swajano nasyat, Pitana nasyat, Janani nasyat. That one should not become a father or a mother or a worshipful deity or a guru unless one is prepared to help this person become delivered from birth and death. If we don't have that mood, that consciousness in dealing with others, then we will not obtain that consciousness for ourselves. Here, Ramaharshan is presenting himself as a greatly learned scholar. But on the other hand, he did not have a mood of service to Lord Balaram or to Krishna. Therefore, whatever he was saying was just deepening his involvement in the illusory energy, which would eventually lead to his gross and subtle fall down. And not only that, but he was going to mislead thousands and tens of thousands of other sages. And therefore, Balaram, out of his mercy, came to correct the situation. And Balaram, he put Sutta Goswami, who had heard from Shukadeva Goswami about who Krishna is and what the goal of and how to obtain him. Therefore, Balaram did Ramaharshan a favor, and he did all the sages of Namasharanya a favor, and he did all of us a favor. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, we may think that Balaram had killed Ramaharshan, so he was unfortunate. No, actually, he just like when Lord Shiva Lord Shiva's servant, Virabhadra, had cut off the head of Daksha in the yagya and replaced it with a goat's head. When Daksha saw Lord Shiva, even though he had a goat's head, he offered prayers to Lord Shiva and praised him and thanked him for what Lord Shiva had done. Because Daksha had realized that his mentality was bringing him down to the lowest species of life. And that without being chastised by Lord Shiva and corrected by him, he would have been in a very dangerous and miserable situation. Therefore, we have to see that Lord Balaram, whatever he does, is always merciful. And similarly, Lord Balaram being the original spiritual master, he sometimes, even when we take up the process of pure devotional service, we should be prepared to be chastised by Lord Balaram, by our spiritual masters. And thus we can learn how to accept chastisement from them. It is very unlikely we'll make any significant advancement. That we have to have the mood of submission, inquiry, and service. And thus we develop that mood of inquiry, and thus we're actually develop a burning desire to understand Krishna consciousness and develop the means to give it to others as our rightful service. Then, unless we're inquisitive, then even though we may take a position of submission, excuse me, come in. 1 second, please.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here with TV class. Oh, TV class. Which is about box.
Yeah.
Box. You would like to go and see it, identify which one that I give
class. Maybe after I give another class right after this one. Maybe 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. So, inquisitiveness and submission and service. So we may try to be submissive, but without being inquisitive and rendering service, then we won't make any progress. Everyone is submissive. Everyone has some leader that they're following. As Krishna said, yad yad acharya shrestas tad eve tarojanaha. There's no one in this universe who doesn't have an authority that they're following. But unless they know the right questions, unless they know what the goal of life is, then however submissive they are, no matter what they do, they won't achieve the goal of life. They won't make any progress unless you consider going up and down in a Ferris wheel of progress. Therefore, one has to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other such literatures and hear from these experienced persons what the goal of life is and how to achieve it. What are the right questions to ask? What are we supposed to actually be inquisitive about? Does it really make that much of a difference who won this election? Do we think that someone wins an election, for instance, and according to who wins the election, karma is reduced or increased? No, we have our personal karma. We have our personal realizations in Krishna consciousness, and this does not depend upon any particular politician or philosopher or any such personalities. It depends upon our taking shelter of Lord Krishna, Lord Balaram, and his representatives, and be prepared to practice the process of devotional service in Krishna consciousness in a way that increases our inquisitiveness, increases our submission, and increases our service attitude. In other words, unless one understands the process of getting a higher taste, of experiencing transcendental ecstasy, or at least transcendental satisfaction, then whatever we're hearing is just wasting our time. And unless the time that, even if we're hearing about how to practice devotional service, unless we practice devotional service with enthusiasm and steadiness, then we also will not get in contact with the super soul. And without getting contact with the super soul, we won't really get guidance on how to make progress towards developing our pure love for Krishna. Therefore, Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita that blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. One should not only hear submissively, but one should get a clear understanding through submission, service, and inquiries. That the learned spiritual master is by nature very kind to the disciple. When the disciple is always inquisitive and is ready to render service, then the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. So undoubtedly we come in contact with many learned persons, and that's very nice. There are many persons, scholars in different areas. But if they don't have faith in the Acharya, if they don't have faith in Srila Prabhupada in our particular case, if they believe that Prabhupada made mistakes at some time, then this is the unfortunate position of those who get bad association, especially by academic scholars, and miss the whole point of devotion and love. As Prabhupada explains, perfection is not simply to know everything. Only Krishna knows everything. Perfection is how sincere we are in taking shelter of Krishna so that we can help bring others back to the spiritual kingdom. If we don't develop that sincerity of purpose, then everything we're doing is a waste of time. No matter how exalted others may believe that we are, no matter how many titles we have after our name, if we don't have the sincerity of purpose to help bring people, other Krishna's children, back to the spiritual kingdom, then we're simply misusing the human form of life. Therefore, someone such as Srila Prabhupada who is completely dedicated towards bringing others back to the spiritual kingdom, may apparently have contradicted himself in his presentations at times. Or maybe he said things that were socially unacceptable. But he did so in order to not get into conflict with those who he was talking to. He did so that he could actually inject within them the inspiration to perform devotional service and become Krishna conscious. So rather than wasting his time on controversies, Prabhupada sometimes made statements which may not be socially acceptable to certain persons in this modern society, but they were accurate in terms of the Vedic conception, and at the same time they were appropriate to this particular time, place, and audience, so that he can inject within them Krishna consciousness. So that art we have to appreciate, otherwise we won't learn the art ourselves. If you go out in book distribution and you believe that you should only quote from the Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita to the people that you meet, you may find yourself not distributing as many books as you could do by taking a slightly different approach, by going to preaching to people on their level, but with the idea of giving them Krishna consciousness in the form of transcendental literature. That if we don't believe that the goal of life, we don't know that the goal of life is to obtain Krishna for everyone, what to speak of ourselves, for every living entity, then we'll take exception when someone is trying to make people Krishna conscious, but not according to the way that we think they're supposed to do it. And especially when Acharya is preaching, then that's all right. We may not accept the Acharya. We may believe he commits mistakes. But if we believe that those mistakes are impediments to his divine consciousness, what we apparently think is a mistake is some kind of impediment for his divine consciousness and his deliverance of Krishna consciousness, then we ourselves are committing an offense like Ramaharshan. And undoubtedly, Balaram will not be pleased with us. Krishna will not be pleased with us. Balaram will not be pleased with us. And our preaching will not be effective, no matter how much we claim ourselves to be academic scholars or learned, or how many followers we have who claim the same thing. Bhakti will not be there. Unless one takes shelter of the Acharya, as Sutta Goswami did by hearing from Shukadeva Goswami. No matter how learned we are, we won't actually have, our knowledge will be just like, as it says in the Ishopanishad, just like a valuable jewel on the head of a serpent. The jewel may be very attractive, but if it's on the head of a serpent, the serpent will not be any less venomous. So to hear from academic scholars who don't have faith in the Acharya system of deliverance of knowledge and the purpose of Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to inject Krishna consciousness somehow or another in the hearts and minds of the living entities in an appropriate way, not deviating from the standard Vedic culture, or at least scriptures, then we ourselves, not only we won't make progress, but we'll put ourselves and others into danger, like Ramaharshan was doing here, and then mercifully Balaram corrected him. So I'll stop here for now. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Our businesses go to Prabhupada. How are you?
I'm all right. And how are you?
Well, if you see me serving Krishna, you know I'm okay.
Okay, see you serving Krishna.
Okay. This example of a person of high status, prominence, honorable position, and then misusing it by not respecting somebody like Lord Balaram. It's kind of interesting. I'm hearing some devotees talking these days, all this stuff about the election. These guys are doing this and these guys are going to do that. And these guys don't know what they're doing. These guys are threatening us. And I hear a lot of, maybe appropriate responses to people who are assuming authority, but may not be qualified spiritually. But what I don't hear, and what I want to ask you about is, it seems to me that when the devotees talk like that, if they're exalting the power and the misdirection of some leadership person, but what I hunger for is to say, but Krishna knows what's going on, and just like when the earth was overburdened by the, defense forces of demoniac kings, but Krishna is greater, more powerful, smarter than all of these, pseudo leaders. And Krishna is going to do something really wonderful. It's setting the stage for a very tremendous Kurukshetra-like cleaning the clock that will happen. I'm hoping to see that the devotees will also, besides criticizing inappropriate leadership, will glorify Krishna and say, compared to Krishna, these puny little puppets are, completely helpless and will be easily swept away by Krishna's, even with a blade of grass. Krishna can whoop them. Do you hear like that? Do you hear devotees talking like that? But then I don't see the end. But Krishna, you know what I'm saying? Have you heard like that? Is that an appropriate?
Yeah, I mean, Krishna doesn't have to even use a blade of grass to take care of most of us. The material nature is completely adequate to do that. And therefore, somehow or another, it's been all arranged to encourage everyone, including ourselves, to take shelter of Krishna. Therefore, we can learn that when we're being chastised, and we're all being chastised by the material nature, it's only because we're not adequately taking shelter of Krishna and his instructions and his mission. So I'm going to ask someone else for a question. Thank you for your comment.
Of course.
Prasant.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for a wonderful class. My question is about the thing that you said in the middle of the class, that it's the goal of all of us to spread Krishna consciousness, to follow the footsteps of our acharyas. When I practically try to do it, because I have benefited so much from it, I often hear from friends and family that they're too busy, that it's like they are religious enough, they pray to God once a day, or they visit a temple once a week. And other times when I try to push, it's almost like, hey, you don't try to pull us into your cult or something of that sort. Maybe not in exactly those words, but something like that. So what practical advice would you give us in this day, time, and circumstance with which we can gently bring them our way without making them think that, we are trying to yeah, that's the question. How do we practically implement it in today's world?
Well, according to Krishna Bhagavad Gita, Anuvega Karam Vakyam Sattva Priyitam Chayat Swadaya Vyasanam Chaiva Vangmana Tapuchite. The first thing he says about austerity speech is Anuvegam. Anuvegam, don't agitate people's minds. Because if you agitate their minds, their intelligence is lost. If their intelligence is lost, then they can't see what the value of what we're telling them is. Therefore, our first business is bhakti. Is not to force people by physically or mentally, whatever, intellectually. It's to give them some appreciation for what we're asking them to do. And for that, we have to have actually real appreciation ourselves. As Prabhupada, his heart was full of bhakti, and therefore, even though he could preach very strongly to others, but they got this sense of bhakti, that it was done out of love. Just like a mother may chastise the child sometimes, but the child may know it's out of love. Jasoda Maya used to chastise Krishna sometimes. Well, Krishna understood it was out of love. But if we don't feel that bhakti, and others don't feel that bhakti, as Prabhupada writes in the purport, if when someone accepts us as an authority, then we can speak strongly to them, unless you're giving class. I mean, because the class you're supposed to speak strongly. But if we're dealing personally with devotees or with people in general, unless they accept us as an authority in some way or another, but in our case, especially if we don't feel love for them and appreciation, and at the same time some feeling of desire to assist them in their mission of life, if we don't feel it and they don't feel it, and we try to direct them in some way, it won't be appreciated. They'll probably act in an opposite way. Therefore, our first business is practice Krishna consciousness as strictly as possible and be aware of what our motivations are, what our feelings are towards others, and try to be aware of how they're accepting us. And then deal with that. Thank you all. I have another class right now, so thank you for your nice association.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Maharaj.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.
Jai. Shri Radha Murida Gaura Chanjan Sir Bhagavan Ki Sri Prabhupada Ki Lotus feet of our spiritual masters.
Hare Krishna. Nityananda Chandra Prabhu, thank you very much for scheduling Maharaj's class. It was a treat. Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to maybe add something, say something, or quote something to back up what Maharaj said? It's okay. It's okay. So would anyone like to speak? Annabelle, Isaiah, what's the backstory of that snake? Bhima Prabhu is curious if that snake is a devotee or a demon. Whoa, a severe Akashvani. Okay, Isaiah, what's the snake's name? Tell us.
Snakey.
Snakey. Okay, Bhima Prabhu, are you satisfied? It's not Kaliya. It's not Agasura. It's Snakey. And there's one story in the Shastra about a snake who became a devotee. It was a cobra snake, became a devotee, and then it was confused. Should I keep biting people? And then the people in the village found out that the snake had become a devotee and started taking advantage of that, picking on the snake. And the snake came to Narada Muni asking, so what should I do? I'm a devotee. I can't really bite. What should I do? And Narada Muni told the snake, show your teeth. Just show your teeth. You don't have to bite, but show your teeth. So the takeaway from that story is that if someone is asking for trouble, then we can show teeth as devotees. We don't have to bite, but we can show teeth. Isaiah, can you show teeth? You have any teeth missing?
Teeth.
Annabelle. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Isaiah, come. I want to see your teeth. Yeah. Ah, nice. Thank you. Okay.
The Bhagavatam has this picture of Balaram with the kusha grass.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Krishna Kumari. Thank you. Okay. I have a question. Who is available to take questions for Maharaj? Raise your hand. Okay, Adipurusha Prabhu. The question is for you. Maharaj said that we won't go far on our path unless we are enthusiastic. That's what he said. So what's the source of that enthusiasm? Suppose it's a Monday morning in February, nothing to look forward to. Where's that enthusiasm coming from that I need to progress on my path?
All good things come from the lotus feet of the spiritual master. In the class, somebody asked a heartfelt question about others in the family who may not be so moved to participate or practice Krishna consciousness, and what can we do for them? Just to reflect what Maharaj said, he said that what they're looking for is love, and that love is the key. My mother used to sometimes protest, and criticize and question my life in serving Krishna. And I would pray to Krishna what to say. And Krishna gave me this. I would say, Mama, I love you. And really what they want to know is if you love them, And then she would be quiet. We give them prasadam. I'd just say, Mama, I love you.
Prashant Prabhu, call them up right now after this class and tell them that you love them. That's all they need. And then you can preach, maybe.
That's what they want to know. Are you turning away from me? Are you rejecting me? Do you still love me?
Yeah.
And the parents or anyone, even a dog can tell if you're afraid of him, if you're threatening him, or if you're, affectionately, calling him and petting him. So underneath everything, everybody loves everybody. But we've forgotten how to show it, and we've forgotten that that's really what the relationship is about.
Yeah.
We wish them well, We care for them. We don't think ourselves better than them. We try to serve them. And of course, we try to set a good example of practicing Krishna consciousness and being satisfied in it. My sister, for 45 years, really kept Krishna consciousness at arm's length, right? I mean, she liked me and everything, but and they would visit us, visit them, but I could see that she but she walked in the Bhakti Center one day, and Champak Lataji Mataji was there, and greeted her with a big smile, and some sweet words, and she told me, "I just saw that girl, and all that resistance and uncomfortableness went away. Just a moment, just a devotee, just with an open heart and an affectionate greeting and a warm welcome, just dispelled the whole thing. 45 years of my preaching was useless compared to that one moment with Champak Bhattalata Mataji. Anyway, of course, Prabhupada Maharaj said this, show them love.
Yeah.
The emphasis is on show. It takes time. You can't just say I love you. I've seen this. I've been a part of this. What is it called? Just the words from your mouth. But what really is necessary is you actually sacrifice a bit of your time to give them a call, give your folks a call, give your children a call, if they are living separately, as far as your elder children, and spending time with your kids, going out of your way to do things that they like to do. Then they connect. That's Maharaj Adi, is trying to explain. You have to connect to somebody. They're not going to open their heart to you if you hit them with the Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. They're not going to open their heart. They have to see that you have an open heart. So like Champakalata, who's a wonderful hostess, and her smile is infectious like the sun. People pick up on that. It's the vibes, it's the body language. No man is a prophet in his own home. So the best thing you can do sometimes within your own family is to get them in the association of other devotees somehow. We have to be humble enough to realize that our family has seen us when we weren't devotees. So they are not going to, yeah.
I wonder what Adipusha Prabhu's sister saw that she kept Krishna consciousness in an arm's length.
Probably Adi in a diaper.
Yeah. That's a good point you made about bringing other devotees. There's a little kid came to New Vrindavan from Mexico. He's stowed away in the car. The devotees who visited Mexico City temple, they didn't know he was hiding in their backseat of their car under a blanket. And then when they got into the United States and had gone a long way, he came out. And they were like, "What are you doing in our car? We just smuggled you into the United States." And he said, "I want to go to New Vrindavan. I want to go to be a place where there's a lot of devotees and serving Krishna." And they were astounded because he was only like 5 years old. And he'd already been thrown out of school for, he asked the teacher a question. Well, who is Jesus praying to when he's on that rock in the garden? And the teacher was like, "What are you talking about? Jesus, if Jesus is God, who's he praying to?" So it was like, he made a question that the teacher couldn't answer, and they threw him out of school. But the thing is, when he got to New Vrindavan, he begged to stay there. And he worked hard from 5 years old. And then when he grew up, about when he was a teenager, we were on traveling Sankirtan, and we went to my mother's house. And I never preached to them. I just, try to be nice to them. And you can't preach, like you said, Bhima said, no man is a prophet in his own house, in his own village. But when she started talking to that devotee, he just poured out his heart and his experience and his faith. And he was able to touch my mother's heart much more than I could even imagine myself doing. Another devotee she just wanted to know testimony, his experience, how he felt, what he saw. And it was like very beautiful to see that. I've seen that many times, bringing other people into the family rather than you preaching to them. Seems to be a good strategy.
Especially a child that needs a mother, and Shaw probably should have been turned around and brought back to where he was from.
He wouldn't go. His parents had also, it was a terrible.
A 5-year-old doesn't make a decision. Adults make a decision, Prabhu.
Well, shoulda, woulda, coulda. I can tell you what happened. You can say what should have happened. I tell you what did happen.
Yeah. Well, for the
He's still a
future
devotee.
reference.
Das was just visiting him in California, and he's a very good devotee. He's very satisfied in devotional service. I mean,
See, Bhima Prabhu, it all played out nicely.
From one point of view.
you know this devotee.
I do know this devotee. I traveled with him. He was very troubled. He opened up to me long before he opened up recently. Of course, he's a devotee. Of course, it's wonderful. But, a 5-year-old, that's a crime. Should have been turned around and put back where he was. Anyways, that's just coulda, woulda, shoulda. But I'm just saying we can't be transcendental above the law.
The point of the story is that someone else may be able to speak to your parents more than you can. That's the point. Don't lose the point.
Your examples make me lose the point, Prabhu.
That's my fault. I'm sorry. Okay, Glorious to Prabhupada. I have to go.
Thank you. Okay, want to preach to your parents? Give them a call. When you preach to your wife, wash the dishes.
When you want to escape, kids, hide in the back seat of a car under a blanket and go to another country.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Abai Charan Arvinda Das. I know you Abai Charan Arvinda Das.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I wanted to say something. Reminded of Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, verse 22, where Krishna says, "But those who worship me with devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and preserve what they have." And it, I don't know, just thinking about this verse is really, how can I say it? Because it's one of my favorite verses of the Bhagavad Gita. And when I was a child, one of my friends from France, he had this book, Catch 22, and I read that book, and he gifted me that book. But it was like it's reminding me of that book. Like we all have to fly our own plane. Prabhupada told us, we learn and we get our guidance here when we're in this world with the association of devotees and Guru Sadhu Shastra, but then we gotta fly our own plane. So I don't know, I just feel overwhelmed right now. That's all. Just wanted to share. Good.
Thank you, Abai Charan Arvinda Prabhu. Thank you very much for being vulnerable. This is a nice discussion in line with Guru Sadhu and Shastra. It's pleasing to Krishna. Thank you, Prabhus and Prabhujinis. Okay, we can take one last contribution to the yagya. Who wants to speak? Simon Prabhu, would you like to speak? What's your takeaway from the class?
Hare Krishna. I just joined 5 minutes ago. I don't know what was the class about.
Okay, cool. Thank you for tuning in for 5 minutes. That's fine. If you go to YouTube, the temple at the Bhakti Center, and then you click live, you'll see that class. Maharaj was talking about sharing Krishna consciousness with people and how it should be done with the proper intention, with proper skills, with proper strategies, and efficiently. He was talking about that. A very helpful class today. And then we elaborated on it, how we should preach in our family by being a good son, good husband, good wife, like that.
Okay, nice. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Simon Prabhu. Thank you. Okay, Isaiah, come over here, please. Unmute yourself. What's that grabber? What are you grabbing with it? Krishna's feet? Yeah? Thank you. Thank you very much, Isaiah Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We love you. We need you. Have a wonderful Sunday. Chant, dance, hold a devotee by the hand. You're not alone. You're flying your own plane, but there's also a guru, sadhu, shastra. The devotees flying their own planes right next to you, so it's all good. There's Isaiah flying his little plane. All right. Hare Krishna.